Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Gopala Govinda Rama
Krishna
Madana Mohana
Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Krishna
Madana Mohana. Haribol.
Gopala Govinda
Prabhupada,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya
Hari
Siddhaswarupananda,
Bol Krishna,
Ananda Paramahamsa,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya
Hari
Siddhaswarupananda,
Bol Krishna,
Ananda Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswaru, Ananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswaru, Ananda Paramahamsa.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prastayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Gaura Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Teachings to Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami, the younger brother of Sanatan Goswami, went to Prayag, the modern city of Allahabad, with his younger brother Balaba. When the two brothers heard that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying there, they both became very happy and went to see the Lord. At that time, the Lord was on his way to visit the temple Bindu Madhava. On the way to the temple, the Lord was chanting and dancing, and thousands of people were following him. Some of these people were crying, and some were laughing. Some were dancing, and some were singing, and some were falling onto the ground, offering obeisances to the Lord. In all cases, all of them were roaring the holy name of Krishna. It is said that in spite of being at the confluence of the rivers Ganges and Yamuna, Prayag was never flooded until the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at which time the city was overflooded by love of Krishna. The two brothers, Rupa Goswami and Balaba, stayed aloof in an uncrowded place and witnessed the great crowd and wonderful scene. When the Lord danced, he raised his arms and shouted, Haribol, Haribol. The people all about him were astonished to see his wonderful activities. After visiting the temple, the Lord accepted prasad, food offered to the deity, at the house of the Kanist or southern Brahmana. While at the Brahmana's home, the Lord was visited by Rupa Goswami and Balaba. From a distance, the two brothers fell down on the ground to offer obeisances, and they chanted many Sanskrit verses from the scriptures. When the Lord saw Rupa Goswami offering obeisances before him, he became very pleased and asked him to get up. The Lord then informed Rupa Goswami of the causeless mercy of Krishna upon him. For Krishna had just delivered him from a materialistic way of life based simply on pounding shilling pence. The Lord accepted the two brothers as his own devotees, and he cited one verse from the scriptures, which he stated that it is possible for a Brahmana who has studied the four Vedas to not be accepted as a devotee of the Lord, and that a pure devotee could come from a very low family and yet be accepted by him. Then the Lord embraced the two brothers, and out of his causeless mercy, touched their heads with his lotus feet. Being blessed in this way, the brothers offered prayers to the Lord in their own words. The prayers indicated that Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna himself, that he assumed the form and fair complexion of Chaitanya and was thus known as Gauranga, or the Golden One, and that he was the most magnificent incarnation of Krishna because he was distributing love of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami also quoted one verse which was later found in the book Govinda Lilamrita. Yojana matam bhuvanam dayalu ulaghayan api akarut pramatam swaprema sampat sudaya dabute ham Shri Krishna Chaitanyam amum prapadai. Let me surrender unto the lotus feet of Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most merciful personality of Godhead. He delivers those souls who are merged in ignorance and offers them the highest gift, love of Krishna, and thus makes them mad for Krishna consciousness. After this incident, Vallabha Bhatta invited the Lord to go to the other side of the Ganges, and the Lord went. From that moment on, wherever the Lord went, Rupa Goswami would follow him and stay with him. Because the Lord felt inconvenience in crowded places, he asked Rupa Goswami to accompany him to a place on the banks of the Ganges known as the Sashvamedha Ghata. For 10 days, he instructed Rupa Goswami about the truth of Krishna, the principles of devotional service, and the transcendental relationships with Krishna. All of this was described in full detail so that in the future, Rupa Goswami could distribute the science of Krishna in his book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Indeed, Srila Rupa Goswami described this incident in the first verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in which he speaks of the causeless mercy of the Lord upon him. The Supreme Lord is cognizant and all-powerful, and by his causeless mercy, he empowers a living entity to receive his mercy. Being under the spell of conditional life, people in general are averse to rendering devotional service and practicing Krishna consciousness. In fact, most people are unaware of the principal teachings of Krishna consciousness regarding one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the ultimate goal of life, which is to return home back to Godhead. Nor are people aware of the process by which we can return to the spiritual world, because these important subject matters are unknown to the conditioned soul. Lord Chaitanya, out of his causeless mercy, instructed Rupa Goswami in the principles of devotional service. Later, for the good of the people in general, Rupa Goswami distributed this information of the science of devotional service. In the prologue to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami wrote the following: Hirdirasya preranaya pravartito hamvaraka rupupi tasya hare padakamalam vande Chaitanya Devasya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Lord Chaitanya Deva. Because due to his inspiration, I feel the desire within my heart to write something about devotional service. For this reason, I am engaged in writing this book on the science of devotion known as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. When Lord Chaitanya began his instructions to Rupa Goswami, he first told him, "My dear Rupa, the science of devotional service is just like the great ocean, and it is not possible to show you all its length and breadth. However, I shall try to explain the nature of that ocean by taking just one drop of it. In this way, you can taste it and understand what that ocean of devotional service actually is." So we are very fortunate, no? Because the absolute truth or the science about God is so vast that it's impossible for us to learn everything about it. But because of the mercy of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, we can have a glimpse, we can taste a drop of this ocean of mercy. We can experience somehow. We can learn something and taste the nectar of love for God. So we may not be able to fully grasp or know Krishna in fullness, but even a drop of knowledge and love, a drop of love for God, it can already satisfy us. That's how complete Krishna is. And this drop of love for God, once we come to taste it, we long more for it, and so we engage more in devotional service. But unfortunately, the people in general, especially today, we are conditioned and we were not taught about the science of God. There is no way that we can learn about God or Krishna, the intimate relationship and knowledge about Krishna, except only from his devotees. If you go around the world, you cannot find institutions or even schools and universities that focuses on the science of loving devotion to God. So we have this opportunity because of the desire of our spiritual master, the desire of Lord Chaitanya. That's why we have this opportunity to hear and listen to the teachings of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. That's how fortunate we are. The Lord then explained that within this Brahmananda or universe, there are innumerable living entities who, according to their own fruitive activities, are transmigrating from one species of life to another and from one planet to another. In this way, their engagement in material existence has been continuing since time immemorial. In actuality, these living entities are atomic parts and parcels of the Supreme Spirit. It is said that in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the length and breadth of the individual soul is approximately 1 of 10,000 part of the tip of the hair. In other words, it is so small that it is invisible. So the living entity is, the tip of the hair. The tip of the hair, you divide it into 100. One part of that, 1 over 100 of that, you divide it again to 100. So that's 1 over 10,000. That's how small the living entity that pervades the body. So it's very impossible for the material eye, even microscopes cannot see it. It's very impossible for the material eye to see the living entity. Yeah? 1 over 10,000 of the tip of the hair, yung dulo ng buhok. But we know that there's a living entity on this body, on that body, because of the movement. There is movement, there is growth, there's response. Just like the bulb, we know that there's electricity because of the light. There are symptoms, although we cannot see electric current, but we know that there's electric current because there's light. There's a symptom of electricity because of the light. So similarly, we know that life is present because there's movement, there is growth. So without life, there will be no movement, there will be no growth. You cannot interact with it. This is also confirmed in Svitasvatara Upanishad. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the four Kumaras known as Sanandana gave the following speech upon performing a great sacrifice. O Supreme Truth, if the living entities were not infinitesimal sparks of the Supreme Spirit, each minute spark would be all-pervading and would not be controlled by a superior power. But if the living entity is accepted as a minute part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he automatically becomes controlled by a supreme energy of power. The latter is his actual constitutional position, and if he remains in this position, he can attain full freedom. If one mistakenly considers his position to be equal to that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes contaminated by the doctrine of non-duality, and his efforts in transcendental life are rendered ineffective. So if we think that we are somehow in control, or sometimes we have this idea that we are God and we want to dominate, no? So this will be a problem, and in this way the living entity is contaminated and thinking. There's this school of thought that they're thinking that they are one with God and they are one with everything. So, but that's false idea of who we are, because in reality we are sparks of God, but we are not God. We have the same quality of God. So if we realize this, then we will understand that we are just servants of the Supreme Person, and we are not the dominators. And learning that we are servants, our eternal function, our natural function is to serve. Everyone cannot get away from this situation, or cannot get away from our function. We all have our tendencies to serve. The parents, they serve their children. The children, they serve their parents. We have employees serving their boss. The boss or the company serving the customers. The people, they serve the country. The leader of the country, they serve the people. So we're thinking that the president is the highest, or the highest person in the country. When he goes home, like our president, there's Kitty, no? His daughter is serving his daughter, or wife. No? So everyone is serving. Even people who take care of animals, they as their pet, they serve these animals as their pet. So the pet serves the masters, and the master serves the pet. We cannot get away from this function. No? And once we think that somehow we are the dominators, then we get contaminated, no? As was stated here. No? We get contaminated. And any efforts on transcendental life will be rendered ineffective. So we'll be lost and be covered by material activities. Lord Chaitanya elaborated on this teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam by pointing out that there are two kinds of living entities, the eternally liberated and the eternally conditioned. The eternally conditioned living entities can be divided into two types, moving and non-moving. Those entities which cannot move, like trees, for example, remain in one place and are classified as non-moving entities. And those that move, such as the birds and beasts, are called Jangama, moving entities, and are further divided into three categories. Those that fly in the sky, those that swim in the water, and those that walk on land. Out of the many millions and trillions of living entities on land, human beings comprise only a small portion. Out of that small number of human beings, most are totally ignorant of spiritual life, are unclean in their habits, and no faith in the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In short, most human beings live like animals. These can actually be deducted from the number of human beings that comprise human or civilized life. It is very difficult to find a few human beings who believe in the scriptures and the existence of God, or, for that matter, in proper behavior. Those who do believe in the value of these things are known as Arya, a word denoting those who believe in advancing in spiritual life. Out of those who believe in the value of the scriptures and the advancement of human civilization, there are two classes, the righteous and the unrighteous. Those who are righteous generally execute fruitive activities in order to derive some good result for sense gratification. Out of many such persons who engage in righteous activities for sense gratification, only a few come to know about the absolute truth. These are called jnanis, empiric philosophers. Out of many hundreds and thousands of such empiric philosophers, only a handful actually attain liberation. When one is liberated, he theoretically understands that the living entity is not composed of material elements but is spirit soul, distinct from matter. Simply by theoretically understanding this doctrine, one can be called liberated, but actually a mukta or liberated soul is he who understands his constitutional position as an eternal servant of the Lord. Such liberated souls engage with faith and devotion in the service of the Lord, and they are called Krishna Bhakta or Krishna conscious persons. Krishna Bhaktas are free from all material desires. Those who are liberated theoretically by knowing simply that the living entity is not material may still have desires. Although they may be technically classified amongst liberated souls, their main desire is to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, such persons are very much attached to Vedic rituals and righteous activities, performing them in order to enjoy material prosperity. Even when some of them transcend material enjoyment, they still try to enjoy the spiritual world by merging into the existence of the Supreme Soul. Some of them are also desirous of attaining mystic powers through the execution of yoga. As long as these desires are within one's heart, he cannot understand the nature of pure devotional service. When one is constantly being agitated by such desires, he is not peaceful. Indeed, as long as there is any desire for material perfection at all, one cannot be at peace. Since the devotees of Lord Krishna do not desire anything material, they are the only peaceful persons within this material world. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Muktanam api siddhanam, narayan parayana, Sudurlabha prasanta tatma kutis api mahamune. O great sage, out of the many millions of liberated persons and persons who have achieved success in mystic yoga, one who is completely devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is filled with peace is very hard to find. In this way, Lord Chaitanya explained that the many thousands and millions of living entities wandered in the material world, one who by the grace of Lord Krsna and the spiritual master gets the seed of devotional service is very rare and fortunate. A pious or religious man is generally inclined to worship deities in various temples. But if by chance, even without his knowledge, he offers his obeisances to Lord Vishnu or receives the favor of a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, he at the time acquires the asset necessary to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is clearly understood from the life story of the great sage Narada, which is related in Srimad Bhagavatam. By serving Vaishnavas in his previous life, Narada was favored by the devotees of the Lord and became a great sage. Indeed, among sages, Narada Muni is considered to be the greatest. So, it's not automatic when you do good deeds, you go back to Krishna right away. No. Unless we get liberated, no, there's no way, there's no chance that we can approach the Supreme Person. So there are, I don't know if I'm correct, no, 8,400,000 species of life. I think Sir Bhagavan mentioned it. I'm not accurate with the figures. And in this number of species, I think there are 108 species, human species, or 400. I'm not sure. But anyway, out of these living entities, only a few are liberated or have the understanding that they are not matter but spirit. And out of these who are liberated, only a few of them gets to approach the Supreme Person because of desires. We see people who are engaged in religious activities for selfish interest. Some people engage in what we call karma kanda, where you do a certain activity because you know that if you do something good, you will receive something good. So people engage in good activities so that they can enjoy later on materially. And only a few are really engaging in devotional service. But there is a way where we can approach Krishna, and one is devotional service and the other one is the mercy of the spiritual master. We don't need to learn all of these things. Simply by engaging in devotional service, rendering our loving service to the spiritual master, then we can get close. We can approach the Supreme Person. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets to know and can approach Krishna. And by the mercy of Krishna, one gets to know the spiritual master. So it is only by the mercy of the spiritual master, it's only the mercy of Krishna that we can approach him. Simply by their mercy, we don't need to perfect the process. We don't need to do the rituals perfectly, like how long are we going to do Artik and Guru Puj, or are we doing it the proper way? What's important is what is in our heart, our desire to be close to God, to be pleasing to Krishna. This is what's important, that we give our life to God. And following the process where we can be able to approach Him. Vaishnavas or devotees are usually very compassionate upon conditioned souls. Without even being invited, a devotee will go from door to enlighten people and to bring them out of the darkness of nescience by injecting knowledge of the living entity's constitutional position as a servant of Lord Krishna. Such devotees are empowered by the Lord to distribute devotional consciousness or Krishna consciousness to the people in general. They are known as authorized spiritual masters, and it is by their mercy that a conditioned soul gets the seed of devotional service. The costless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is first appreciated when one comes in touch with a bona fide spiritual master who can bring the conditioned soul to the highest position of devotional life. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya said that by the mercy of the spiritual master, one can achieve the costless mercy of the Lord, and by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can attain the mercy of the bona fide spiritual master. So it's the first step. Approaching a spiritual master is the first step in spiritual life. And the spiritual master is doing it not because he wants to acquire followers. He does not want to have it's not making a big group or acquiring so much followers, but the reason why we are receiving this knowledge is because of the compassion the spiritual master has to all the living entities. He knows that we are not supposed to be here. He knows the pain and suffering that we are experiencing in this world, and his only desire is to free us from this. That's why by his mercy we are receiving this knowledge, and he does this to everyone, just like the rain. So Lord Chaitanya is so magnanimous that he does not choose who to spread the love for God. It's like rain. It rains on the water, it rains on land. So the rain does not choose, dito lang ako uulan. No? So similarly, Lord Chaitanya is spreading the holy names, the process where we can achieve love for God to everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. It doesn't matter even if you believe it or not. But of course, it's up to us to accept it, embrace it in our hearts. Thus, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna, one receives the seed of devotional service. He has only to sow the seed in the field of his heart, just as a gardener sows the seed of valuable tree. After sowing this seed, one has to water it in the form of chanting and hearing the holy name of the Supreme Lord or by taking part in discussions about the science of devotional service in a society of pure devotees. When the plant of devotional service sprouts up from the seed of devotion, it begins to grow freely. When it is full grown, it surpasses the length and breadth of this universe and enters into the transcendental atmosphere, where everything is bathed in the effulgence of Brahma Jyoti. The plant even penetrates this Brahma Jyoti and gradually enters the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan. There, the plant takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. That is the ultimate goal of devotional service. After attaining this position, the plant produces fruit, which is known as the fruit of love of Godhead. However, it is necessary for the devotee or transcendental gardener to pour water on the plant daily by chanting and hearing. Unless one waters the plant by chanting and hearing, there is every chance that it will dry up. So there are three aspects of the absolute truth. One aspect is the Brahma Jyoti. So this is the outskirts of the spiritual world. So the whole creation, the material creation is just a portion of the spiritual world. It's just a portion of the spiritual world. And what covers it is the white light, or Brahma Jyoti. So we hear stories about people experiencing the near-death experience and they are seeing the white light. So there is really this white light, what is called in the scriptures as Brahma Jyoti. And there are people, liberated souls, that comes to experience this. Once they are liberated, they leave their body and they stay in this white light. So the white light is the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. So there's no personality there. Once you are there, your personality is covered. You merge with the light, and everything there is just white light. But because of our desire for love, the tendency is we are sent back to the material world because of this desire. So this is not the highest perfection. And most people, when they return from the white light, they'll be thinking, and because of that experience, they'll be thinking that they are the Supreme Person and everyone is one. So there's this philosophy that everything is one with them. And the liberation that you can achieve is merging into this bright light. But that's the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. The second one is the Paramatma, or the Lord within the heart. So this truth is the Supreme Person is within our hearts, and we get to achieve this by meditation. And the third one is Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. And this is what's being told here. When the devotee has planted the seed of devotional service, so it is up to us to water it by chanting the names of God. So that's the water that we use. That water is not an ordinary water, because there's all the nutrients already needed for the plants to grow. No? So this is not just some simple water, but a special type of water, because this water will is complete with nutrients that the seed of love for God will grow. No? And once it grows, no, it goes beyond this universe, this material creation, and it grows beyond the Brahma Jyoti. So for example, this is the material world. So there's a covering, that's the white light. That's the white light. And the seed of love for God, no, goes beyond this white light. No? And what's beyond the white light is the Supreme Person. It's the Supreme Person, and we can only experience this if we get to regularly water this seed of love for God. If we do not, if we fail to do this, if we fail to water the plant, so we know what will happen. But from experience in this world, how plants die or dry up when we don't water them. So similarly, we have to always take care of this seed, this plant of love for God. So we are transcendental gardeners, and there are things that we should look out. We should look out of the weeds that are growing, and we remove these weeds. So these weeds are material desires that we have in activities that will cover this plant. So the smaller the plant, the more important that we should look after it. So we need association, people who can help us look after it. And people who are on the same path, who wants to achieve the same goal, which is love for God. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be in a team, but rather we have to look for people who can help us, guide us, reach this goal, and engage as individuals, engage also in the process where the plant of love for God will grow. And once it grows, we can experience the love for God. Lord Chaitanya pointed out to Rupa Goswami that there was a certain danger to be encountered while watering the root of the devotional plant. After the plant has grown some bit, an animal may come and either eat or destroy it. When green leaves of a plant are taken by some animal, the plant generally dies. The most dangerous animal is considered a mad elephant, for if a mad elephant enters into a garden, it causes tremendous damage to plants and trees. An offense to a pure devotee of the Lord is called Vaishnava Parada, the mad elephant offense. In the discharge of devotional service, an offense to the feet of a pure devotee can create havoc. Thus, one has to defend the plant of bhakti by tending it properly and taking care not to commit offenses. If one is cautious, the plant can properly thrive. So, hindi lang pala weeds ang dangerous, no? May mas dangerous pa yung mad elephant. So, the mad elephant is when we are offensive to the devotee of God. So, imagine an elephant entering into the garden. No? So, you know what will happen to the plant. This is very important that we avoid such an offense because this will kill our spiritual life. So, we'll just continue if there's still time in the future because right now I think I've exceeded already. No? So, for us to grow our plant of love for God, so let's chant and Haribol and take care of this seed of bhakti.
Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Krsna Radha Krishna Pristayate Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Krsna Radha Krishna Pristayate Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Pristayate Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Pristayate Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri 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 Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Krsna Prasad